Hey there. So I want to explain the psychology, or rather the sociopathology, um, of attention without resolution. That good intentions feel like sheer antagonism from my own family when I was a kid. That I just desperately needed to escape from the Wild West. I was totally dysfunctional there. On the East Coast, especially away from the quote unquote convict colonies where I was born, actually, by chance. Um, um, but basically, any sort of flattery conversation, which the radio, when I'm completely isolated from the public and random noises, like that's loud truck driving by right now. When I'm isolated from that random distractions, people, I'm happy, especially if it's people I really don't know, which actually is the internet. Okay, sadly, it used to be Facebook, but now there's on Twitter and Google. I've never met any of them. It's really sad because I'd like to just have an intervention and be a trusted confidant and please be isolated from random distractions because this wildly antagonizes me. This is, you know, a Los Angeles traffic jam turned bad. And the paradigm of Los Angeles would be New York, where it's easy enough to wagons west, into some high plains. Reality, I don't know. Okay. But I'm antagonized by the conversation, even though it is like full of wisdom and playful, you know, loving, family grade antagonism or contention, something like that. That I'm in a panic. That I'm like, oh my god, I'd love to have a conversation, but innocent people would die. So expletive, you and everyone else, because innocent people, this is some urgency that I don't want to even talk about any of it. I just want to, you know, you know, you know what I want, and I want you to give it to me because I would love it. I want to talk about it. I just want to be that, and then be the whatever that is. Okay, if I have to say it, I'm gonna go insane, and the world will suffer. Um, and it originates my next door neighbor, whose single mom was Steve Jobs' secretary. Um, he's got a big sister, and when he's 5 years old, his dad dies, and within months, he's got a girlfriend. He's never been single, so when he walks down the street, it's not like he's with some hoodlum or some desperado gang of guys. He's practically married at 5 years old. Um, and I'll just put this the research I've done on sibling gender constellations. I tried to do this pre-Columbian research. I wanted to know before America was known, was it different? And what I found was that daughters were simply not counted. I think that they were often traded as nannies. Classically, that would be the ultimate one, right? Um, Put in another, you know, or nuns, and guys would go to trade school, and the tradition would lock that in. But what this also indicates is the quote unquote child bride, okay? Because if daughters are a liability, something that causes divorce, basically, this is noted. So that, saying the daughter, like, oh, she's going to be have happy and have function as a nanny over at our relatives over on the other in another town or something like that. Um, you know, to grow up as soon as you're grown up. Okay, this is again the child pride. Jesus Christ, okay, who knows what God, and the environmental surrogate, indeed, etc. The nanny, um, the trade school, the Alfred Hitchcock age thing. I really like this one. I tried to do this research as well. The biography of Alfred Hitchcock, it says he faked his birth certificate, so he was actually a year older than his classmates, and I think that this was strictly forbidden because having students who are older than the other class, they have an intellectual advantage because they're, you know, and so, and they might have also an ambivalence. They might not be predators, but it's the advantage, which they could become some psycho manipulator. This is why we watch Alfred Hitchcock, because of that. But was it quote unquote illegal? Because it was said Alfred had a fear of the police, the law enforcement. He would absolutely didn't want to go there. And I think perhaps his parents says, well, if they find out you're a year older than everyone else, well, you'll be you'll be in a lot of trouble then. But was it legally a thing? And I doing the hypothetical research in my head that the expert analysis of that, because I couldn't find this information online, and Google is 5 years ago it had a different functionality. It's very different now. A lot of information is no longer available, just like the forests and synagogues and children in Israel and Gaza. A lot of things are just gone now, and it's a bad joke, and I don't want to talk about it. I just want there to be an intervention, because even the experts, they might be benefited from some element where they had an unfair advantage as a child. I didn't have that. Thomas Jefferson did have it. George Washington didn't. King George seeks Washington for Royal Navy is something that would have probably been in print 100 years before George Washington was even born, or close to that. When his great grandfather was a kid. So by the time you become third generation, you don't have any old world connections like George Washington, effectively, and is a guy with brothers and a little sister, the sociopathic, which is really the statistical, because just using the word sociological, some people, all they hear is weirdo. Okay, this is, and go walk the streets of San Francisco and see how fun that is if you're not happy to be there. Okay, and by yourself. This is the problem that the neighbor has never been single because he's got a single mother and a big sister, has no competition, has pure allies. George Washington, at least he has a single mother, so that's why we know the founding fathers. They all had that benefit. Justin Bieber, Eminem, some other ones. If the superstars don't say enough, the guy who grows up with a single mother as an only child, that guy's has no competition, has pure support. You know, and in Europe, it's the complete opposite, more or less. The father, Shakespeare's father is a craftsman, probably does everything at home, so he's there all the time. His customers are coming in for their finished leather goods and gloves, and they put on the gloves, and oh, Shakespeare, you're so good. I hope your son is successful. Um, um, so, and the Puritans are probably at the other opposite end of that scale, where it's more the finished product versus the man of the cloth. The man of the cloth, the textiles dealer, as John Smith's or the Puritans' father was, would go out of the house to acquire those textiles. And this isn't a finished product. He's leaving the house. He's leaving his son behind. His son perhaps becomes disillusional. The word heretical, whatever that actually means. Um, 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 Shakespeare doesn't grow up in a church, does he? Um, anyways, I'm antagonized by the attention, because I fundamentally need a intervention resolution. I wish someone would give me an ideal agent and home, and I'll sign the lifetime contract, okay, and I'll gladly work for all those people. But I'm becoming complete after about a year or two of me attempting to communicate, okay. After a couple of years, there's no response, okay. The Nobel Prize in Literature or extra treasurers, ouch. Then I become like, oh my God, why won't you guys just help me? That it's serious, and I'm struggling to communicate. So it's total catch-22. In 2001, I simply wouldn't have gone on the internet. Okay, there's no reason for me to do that. Other than I was fairly desperate. I had spent 6 months in Australia, and in the peak of the summer, it got really uncomfortable. It was an endless summer. I was exhausted. The heat, I had no real comfort, no purpose. I'm trying to do my writing, but it's you got to have books generally to do that. I didn't have much of that. You have to have a study. You have to have somewhat of a community, so that you're not living in the wilderness by yourself. That's what I was doing back then. And I came back in another endless summer, and I point out this thing that in Australia, in the year early 2000, late 2000, early 2001, I bought a mobile phone. I called home, and so this would identify that, oh yeah, he's that guy over there. So we know who this guy is. So whenever he's listening to his radio, we can basically know that. And so the conversation, I noticed it going back a ways. And I'm like, this is polarizing, this conversation. I just want there to be an intervention. I wish I had a happy home, a career, and I was around someone who I could love. Okay? And I become completely deranged by those thoughts. That like, oh, wouldn't it be lovely? It's like, how about I go completely insane because I don't have that, and no matter what I do, you guys are going to act like, oh, it's a conversation, it's a game, who cares what happens? Well, I care. I think that there's a lot of other people who care, but if they don't actually care, I'm antagonized. I think like, oh my God, you guys, this is going on my whole life. Effectively, okay, the hype around Jaws. I remember my cousins came over sometime around 1980. Could have been. They lived at the military base, not too far from us. They were about the same age as us, and we were riding around in the back of the pickup truck downtown Santa Cruz back in the day, and I don't know. Um, that was when Jaws was all the hype and stuff like that. Um, and I just want you guys, please. I'm a person who couldn't find respect. So I'm completely deranged if anyone sort of acts like they're trying to respect, give me some information, I become enraged, especially if there's random people, because I know that's oh, my nose is just that's the worst thing that could possibly happen is, and I'm not going to use the word derelict, but random people. Okay, sometimes, okay, charming, I know. um, that's just the perspective, what perhaps they see, okay. um, and I wouldn't be there. I'd stay at home and pay total attention and be there with someone special who cares. And then the conversation, especially if it's directed at someone else who's smiling the whole time, every time the attention is brought up, I will love it. Okay, and it will work. If it's directed at me, it's because I'm a loser. I'm like, this is dumb fighting words type of thing. And I don't want to, I'm muting it on the radio as soon as I hear them talking, even though a lot of them really care. They're really sincere broadcasters, but they don't understand that the conversation is sheer antagonism. I just want I want to smoke something, okay? Please, bring something or I can smoke it.